The morning sun cast long shadows across the crystal spires of Zephria Prime as Veltar began his daily work at the communication center. The tall, thin alien moved with grace through the gleaming halls, his translucent blue skin catching the light that filtered through the dome above. For 300 years, his people had known nothing but peace on their beautiful world. Veltar settled into his chair before the massive communication array that reached deep into space. His job was simple: listen for signals from other worlds, catalog new discoveries, and maintain contact with the few trading partners his people had found among the stars. The Zephrians were not warriors or explorers. They were scientists and artists, happy to spend their long lives studying the universe from their safe home. The first warning came as a soft beep on his console. Veltar leaned forward, his large eyes focusing on the display. Strange ships had appeared at the edge of their solar system. At first he thought they might be traders or explorers like the few others who had visited over the years, but these ships were different. They were dark, angular, and far too many. Within minutes, the peaceful morning was shattered. The alien ships moved with deadly purpose toward Zephria Prime. Veltar watched in horror. As they destroyed the orbital stations that had taken decades to build, the communication satellites that connected his world to the galaxy went silent. One by one, the mining platforms that harvested rare crystals from the asteroid belt exploded in brilliant flashes of light. Then came the message that would haunt Veltar for the rest of his life. A harsh voice spoke in a language his translation systems quickly decoded. People of Zephria Prime, you will surrender immediately. Your world now belongs to the Krillian Empire. Resistance is futile. You have 1 hour to respond. The Zephrians had no weapons. They had no military. They had no experience with war of any kind. Their ships were built for exploration and trade, not fighting. Their technology was advanced in many ways. They had never needed to create tools of destruction. Veltar's hands shook as he sent an emergency message to the Planetary Council. Within minutes, every leader on Zephria Prime was gathered in the Great Hall, their crystal bodies trembling with fear. They had studied other civilizations and knew that some species were aggressive, but they had never believed such evil would come to their peaceful world. The Krillian ships began their attack exactly 1 hour later. Massive beams of energy struck the planet's surface, destroying cities and killing thousands of innocent people. The beautiful crystal towers that had stood for centuries crumbled to dust. The gardens where Zephrian children played were turned into burning craters. Veltar ran back to his station as the building shook around him. He had to do something. He had to try to save his people. The Zephrians had always believed that other civilizations in the galaxy were essentially good, that someone would help if they were in trouble. It's time to test that belief. His fingers moved quickly across the controls, setting up the most powerful signal his equipment could produce. The message would travel faster than light to every corner of known space. It would reach hundreds of worlds, thousands of species. Surely someone would hear. Surely someone would care. The message was simple and desperate. This is Veltar of Zephria Prime. We are under attack. Our people are dying. We have no weapons, no defenses. If anyone receives this message, please help us. Our coordinates are attached. We are peaceful people. We have never hurt anyone. Please, if there is any goodness in the galaxy, help us. Meanwhile, on a small blue planet 3,000 light-years away, Lieutenant Commander Jake Morrison was finishing his night shift at the Deep Space Monitoring Station. The facility sat high in the mountains of Colorado, its massive dishes pointed toward the stars. Jake had been listening to space for 15 years, hearing the constant chatter of alien civilizations conducting their business across the galaxy. Most of the signals were routine shipping schedules, scientific data, diplomatic messages between worlds. Occasionally, Jake would hear something interesting, like a new discovery or a celebration on some distant planet. But tonight was different. Tonight, he heard something that made his blood run cold. The translation came through clearly. In his headphones, a desperate voice calling for help. A peaceful world under attack. People dying while their planet burned. Jake had heard distress calls before, but they were usually from ships with mechanical problems or explorers who had gotten lost. This was different. This was genocide. Jake immediately called Admiral Lisa Carter, the commander of Earth's deep space operations. Lisa had been a military officer for 30 years, starting as a fighter pilot and working her way up to one of the most important positions in Earth's defense structure. She was tough, smart, and decisive, exactly the kind of person needed to make hard choices quickly. "Admiral, we have a situation," Jake said, when Lisa answered her secure phone. "We're receiving a distress call from an alien world. They're under attack and requesting immediate assistance." Lisa was at the base within an hour. She listened to the message 3 times, her face growing harder with each repetition. Around her, the night shift staff worked quietly, knowing that something important was happening. The Admiral studied the data that had come with the signal, population numbers, planetary details, and most importantly, the coordinates of the world under attack. "Get me Captain Rodriguez," Lisa ordered. "Tell him to prep the Defiance and her sister ships. We're going to need a fast response team." Captain Ben Rodriguez had been expecting this call for years. Earth had been monitoring galactic communications for decades, learning about other civilizations and their conflicts. Military planners had always known that eventually, humanity would have to choose between staying hidden or getting involved. The choice had been made for them. Ben was a third-generation military officer. Following in the footsteps of his father and grandfather, he had served on ships across Earth's solar system and had trained for the possibility of interstellar conflict. His ship, the UES Defiance, was one of Earth's most advanced vessels. Designed for long-range missions and equipped with the latest weapons and defense systems, within 6 hours, a small fleet was ready to launch. The UES Defiance would lead the mission, supported by the EU's Valor and US Guardian. The 3 ships carried a total of 2,000 crew members, including Marines, pilots, engineers, and specialists in alien contact. They were humanity's first official response to an alien crisis, as the fleet prepared to leave Earth's solar system. Ben stood on the bridge of the Defiance looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, innocent people were dying while their world burned. The human fleet was small compared to what they might face, but they were going anyway. It was what humans did. When someone called for help, you answered. The jump to faster-than-light travel would take 3 days. 3 days while the Zephrians died and their cities fell. 3 days while the Krillian Empire added another conquest to their growing list. 3 days while the galaxy learned whether humanity was just another species hiding in the dark or something entirely different. Back on Zephria Prime, Veltar huddled in the ruins of his communication center. Half his world was in flames, and the Krillian ground forces were landing to capture survivors. His people were being loaded onto transport ships like cattle, destined for slavery in the Krillian Empire, but his message had been sent. Somewhere in the vast darkness of space, his desperate plea for help was traveling at the speed of light. Reaching world after world, most would ignore it. Some would feel sorry but do nothing. Others would be too afraid to act. But maybe, just maybe, someone would hear his cry for help and decide to do something about it.
Ow.
Maybe someone would come. The human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Zephrian system. What they saw made even the most experienced officers curse under their breath. The beautiful blue world that had been shown in the distress signal was now scarred with burning cities and massive craters. Dark smoke rose from what had once been peaceful settlements, and the orbital stations that had taken the aliens decades to build were nothing but floating debris. Captain Ben Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the US Defiance, watching the destruction. Through the main view screen, round him, his crew worked in tense silence as they took readings and assessed the situation. The other 2 ships in the small fleet, the US Valor and US Guardian, had taken positions on either side of the flagship, their weapon systems already powered up and ready. "Report," Ben ordered, his voice calm despite the anger building in his chest. 12 large enemy vessels in orbit around the planet, called out Lieutenant Amy Sullivan from the sensor station. They appear to be conducting bombardment operations against population centers. I'm also detecting numerous smaller craft moving between the planet and the larger ships. Any sign of the aliens who sent the distress call? Ben asked. Sir, I'm picking up communication signals from the planet's surface. They're very weak, but they're definitely there. The surviving population seems to be hiding in underground shelters. Ben nodded grimly. At least some of the Zephrians were still alive. That was something. Okay. But the enemy fleet was massive compared to the 3 human ships. This was going to be a very difficult fight. Get me a direct line to the planet, Ben ordered. Let's see if we can make contact with whoever sent that call for help. It took several minutes to establish communication through the interference caused by the ongoing bombardment. When the signal finally came through, the voice was weak and filled with static, but the desperation was clear. This is Veltar of Zephria Prime. Who is this? Please tell me you have come to help us. This is Captain Ben Rodriguez of the United Earth Fleet, Ben replied. We received your distress call and came as quickly as we could. What is your current situation? There was a long pause before Veltar responded, and when he did, his voice was filled with amazement. You came. You actually came. I sent the message to hundreds of worlds, and you are the only ones who answered. We're here now, Ben said simply. Tell me what we're dealing with. Veltar explained the situation as best he could. At the Krillian Empire had arrived 3 days ago with overwhelming force. They had destroyed the orbital defenses in the first hour and begun systematically destroying cities to force surrender. The Zephrians had no military and no weapons. They were a peaceful people who had never fought a war in their entire history. They want our crystals, Veltar said. Our world has rare minerals that they use in their technology. They plan to strip mine our entire planet and take the survivors as slaves. Dr. Amy Sullivan, who had been listening to the conversation, felt sick to her stomach. She had studied many alien civilizations during her career, but she had never encountered anything like this. The Zephrians were completely helpless against the Krillian assault. How many of your people are left? Ben asked. Perhaps half, Veltar replied. They killed many in the initial attack, and they are taking more every hour. Captain, I must ask, how large is your fleet? Can you truly help us against such overwhelming force? Ben looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. They all knew the odds. 3 ships against 12 with no backup coming. But they also knew that sometimes being right mattered more than being safe. We're going to do everything we can, Ben told Veltar. Keep your people hidden and stay on this channel. We'll be in touch soon. Ben ended the communication and turned to his tactical officer, Commander Rick Hayes. Rick was a veteran of many conflicts and had a reputation for finding creative solutions to impossible problems. If anyone could figure out how to win this fight, it would be him. What do you think, Rick? Can we take him? Rick studied the sensor readings for several more minutes before responding. Their ships are big, sir, much bigger than ours. But they're also slow and clumsy. They're built for intimidating, helpless worlds, not for fighting actual warships. Go on, Ben said. Look at their formation, Rick continued. They're spread out around the planet like they're conducting a siege. They're not expecting a fight. If we hit them fast and hard, we might be able to take out several ships before they can organize a proper defense. Lieutenant Sarah Walker, the fleet's best pilot, looked up from her flight console. Sir, if I may, I've been watching their fighter patterns. They're flying like they're on a training exercise. No defensive formations, no combat spacing. Been bullying defenseless worlds for so long that they've forgotten how to fight. Ben nodded. This was good information. The Krillians were strong, but they were also overconfident. That might be enough to give the humans an advantage. Dr. Sullivan, what can you tell me about these Krillians? Amy pulled up the data they had. Gathered from monitoring galactic communications. They're a warrior species, sir. They've conquered 17 star systems in the past 10 years. They're known for their brutality and their use of slave labor. They prefer to attack worlds that can't fight back. So they're bullies, Ben said. They pick on the weak and avoid real fights. That's correct, sir. There's no record of them ever engaging another military force of significant size. They always attack isolated worlds or small colonies. Ben made his decision. All right, people. We're going to send a message to the Krillian commander. We're going to give them one chance to leave peacefully. Sir? Rick asked. Think they'll just leave? No, Ben replied. But we're going to offer them the chance anyway. It's the right thing to do. The communication channel to the Krillian flagship was opened, and Ben's voice carried across space with absolute authority. This is Captain Ben Rodriguez of the United Earth Fleet. You are conducting an illegal attack on a peaceful world. Have 60 minutes to cease your operations and withdraw from this system. This is your only warning. The response came quickly, and it was exactly what Ben had expected. The Krillian War Commander Thexvel appeared on the view screen, his reptilian features twisted into what might have been a smile. He was larger than a human, with dark scales and sharp teeth, clearly evolved from predators. Little human, Thexvel said in a voice like grinding stone, you dare to threaten the mighty Krillian Empire with your tiny ships? We have conquered 17 worlds. We have destroyed fleets 10 times your size. Leave now, or we will add your bones to our collection. Gave you 60 minutes, Ben replied calmly. Use them wisely. The communication ended, and Ben turned to his crew. Battle stations. All ships, prepare for combat. Get your fighters ready. Rick, I want targeting solutions on their command ship and their heaviest vessels. Amy, keep monitoring the planet. I want to know the moment they try to hurt any. More civilians. As the human fleet prepared for battle, down on the planet's surface, Veltar huddled in his underground shelter with the other survivors. The building above them had been destroyed hours ago, but the deep basement had saved their lives. Through the small communication device he had managed to salvage, he listened to the radio chatter between the human ships. These strange aliens, from a world called Earth, were actually going to fight for them. 3 small ships against an entire Krillian fleet. It seemed impossible, but Veltar found himself feeling something he had not felt in days. Hope. The humans sounded different from any species he had ever encountered. They spoke with confidence and determination, not fear. They were planning to attack a force 4 times their size, and they talked about it like it was just another day at work.
What kind of people are these humans?
Whispered another Zephrian. Did not know, but he was about to find out. The 60 minutes were almost up, and the fate of his world hung in the balance above them. The human fleet moved into attack formation, ready to show the galaxy what happened when someone threatened the innocent. The 60 minutes passed like a countdown to war. War Commander Thexvel stood on the bridge of his massive flagship, the Bone Crusher, watching the 3 tiny human ships through his view screen. He had been fighting for the Krillian Empire for 20 years, and he had never seen such foolishness. 3 small vessels against his mighty fleet of 12 heavy cruisers and countless fighters. Weapons Officer Thexvel growled, his scaled hands gripping the command chair. When the time expires, destroy those pathetic ships first. Then we will continue with the harvest of this world. The weapons officer, a younger Krillian with bright green scales, nodded eagerly. Yes, War Commander. It will be a pleasure too. Crush these arrogant aliens. Around them, the bridge crew laughed and made jokes about the coming battle. They had destroyed so many helpless worlds that they had forgotten what real combat looked like. To them, this was just another easy victory to add to their collection. On the bridge of the UES Defiance, Captain Ben Rodriguez watched the timer count down to 0. His crew worked in focused silence, each person knowing their job and ready to do it perfectly. This was what they had trained for their entire careers. Time's up, Ben announced calmly. All ships, execute attack pattern Alpha. Sarah, launch all fighters. Rick, target their command ship first. The human fleet moved with deadly precision. The 3 ships had been spread out in a defensive formation, but now they came together, like the points of a spear, accelerating toward the Krillian fleet at maximum speed. Their weapon systems charged up, and their shields strengthened for the coming battle. Lieutenant Sarah Walker led her squadron of 20 fighters from the launch bay of the Defiance. Her small, fast ships shot forward like angry wasps, weaving between the massive Krillian vessels with impossible speed and agility. Behind her, fighters from the other 2 ships joined the attack, running the space around Zephria Prime into a deadly dance of light and metal. The Krillians were caught. Completely off guard, Their ships were positioned for bombardment, not for fighting other warships. When the human fleet attacked, they were scattered and unprepared. The first Krillian ship to die was a heavy cruiser that took a direct hit from the Defiance's main guns. The massive vessel exploded in a ball of fire that lit up the entire system. "Impossible," Dexful snarled, watching his ship struggle to respond to the human attack. "They are only 3 ships. We are 12. This cannot be happening." But it was happening. The human ships moved through the Krillian fleet like predators hunting prey. They struck hard and fast, then disappeared before the enemy could fight back. Their weapons were precise and deadly, targeting engines and weapon systems with surgical accuracy. Commander Rick Hayes coordinated the battle from his position on the Defiance's bridge. His tactical display showed the positions of all ships, and he directed the attack with the skill of a master chess player. Krillians were trying to form a defensive line, but the humans were too fast and too smart. "Valor, target the ship on your left," Rick ordered. "Guardian, take out those engines. Defiance, we're going for the command ship." The Use Valor, commanded by Captain Lisa Morgan, rolled to avoid a blast of energy from a Krillian cruiser and returned fire with devastating effect. The enemy ship's weapons went silent as its gun turrets exploded one by one. Captain David Kelly of the UES Guardian used his ship's speed to get behind a Krillian vessel and destroy its engines, leaving it helpless in space. Sarah Walker's fighter squadron was having the time of their lives. The Krillian ships were huge and slow, perfect targets for fast attack craft. Sarah led her fighters through the enemy formation, striking critical systems and then vanishing before the Krillians could respond. "This is too easy," Sarah said over the radio to her wingman, Lieutenant Tom Brady. "These guys fight like they're drunk." "Maybe they are," Tom replied, firing missiles at a Krillian weapons platform. "Or maybe they just never learned how to fight real soldiers." The truth was more complex than either pilot realized. The Krillians were skilled warriors, but they had become specialized in a particular type of warfare. They were experts at conquering helpless worlds and crushing weak defenses, but they had no experience fighting an enemy that could fight back effectively. The humans, on the other hand, came from a world where everything was trying to kill them. Earth was what galactic civilization called a Class 12 death world, a planet so dangerous that its native species had evolved to be natural predators and survivors. Humans had been fighting wars against each other for thousands of years, developing tactics and strategies that would have been impossible for a species that had never faced serious opposition. Dr. Amy Sullivan monitored the battle from her station, while also keeping track of the situation on the planet below. She was amazed by what she was seeing. The human fleet was not just winning, they were dominating. 3 ships were destroying an entire Krillian fleet through superior tactics and training. Captain Amy called out, "I'm intercepting Krillian communications. They're calling for reinforcements and talking about retreating." "Let them call," Ben replied, watching another Krillian ship explode on his view screen. "By the time help arrives, this will be over." War Commander Dexful was beginning to understand what he was facing. These humans did not fight like any species he had encountered before. They moved like hunters, striking at weak points and avoiding strong defenses. Their coordination was perfect, and their weapons were incredibly accurate. "All ships form defensive circle," Dexfall ordered. "Concentrate fire on the lead vessel." But the humans refused to cooperate with Krillian strategy. Instead of attacking the defensive formation head-on, they split up and attacked from 3 different directions. The Krillians found themselves trying to defend against enemies that seemed to be everywhere at once. The battle that was supposed to last hours was over in 7 minutes. Half the Krillian fleet was destroyed or disabled, and the rest were calling for permission to retreat. The humans had lost no ships and taken only minor damage. "Sir," Rick reported, "the remaining Krillian vessels are trying to flee the system." "Not so fast," Ben replied. "Open a channel to their flagship." Dexfell's face appeared on the view screen, but he looked very different now. His earlier arrogance was gone, replaced by fear and confusion. Behind him, his bridge crew worked frantically to repair damage and coordinate their retreat. War Commander, Ben said in a calm voice. I believe you have something that belongs to the people of this world. You will return all prisoners and stolen property immediately. You cannot demand terms from the Krillian Empire, Dexville replied, but his voice lacked conviction. We are the conquerors of 17 worlds. You were, Ben corrected. Now you're just another defeated enemy. Return the prisoners, or we will take them. The threat was clear and simple. The Krillians could give back what they had stolen, or the humans would destroy the rest of their fleet and take it anyway. After witnessing what these strange aliens could do in battle, Dexville had no doubt about the outcome. The prisoners will be returned, he said through clenched teeth, down on the planet's surface. Veltar listened to the radio chatter from the battle with growing amazement. The humans had done the impossible. They defeated a Krillian fleet with only 3 ships. More importantly, they had saved his people from slavery and death. How is this possible? Asked another Zephrian. How can such a small force defeat the mighty Krillian Empire? Veltar thought about the voices he had heard during the battle. The humans had sounded calm and professional, even when facing impossible odds. They had worked together like parts of a single machine, each person knowing exactly what to do. I think Veltar said slowly, we have met our first true warriors. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when someone threatened the innocent in front of humans from Earth. The Krillian transport ships began releasing their prisoners within an hour of the battle's end. Hundreds of Zephrians floated in escape pods toward their homeworld, rescued from a fate worse than death. But Captain Ben Rodriguez was not satisfied with just saving the captives. The Krillians had murdered thousands of innocent people, and in human culture, that demanded justice. Rick, what's the status of the fleeing Krillian ships? Ben asked his tactical officer. Commander Rick Hayes checked his sensors carefully. 6 vessels are trying to escape to hyperspace, sir. They're badly damaged and moving slowly. The other 3 are completely disabled and drifting. Sarah, take your fighters and pursue the fleeing ships. Make sure they don't get away. Lisa. David, your ships will help hunt them down. We're not letting these murderers escape to kill more innocent people. The human doctrine was simple and had been the same for centuries. If you attack defenseless civilians, you face the consequences. The Krillians had broken the most basic rules of civilized behavior, and now they would pay the price. Lieutenant Sarah Walker led her fighter squadron in pursuit of the retreating Krillian vessels. Her small, fast ships easily caught up with the damaged enemy cruisers. The Krillians were leaking atmosphere and fuel, their engines barely working after the devastating human attack. Target their engines, Sarah, ordered her squadron. We want them disabled, not destroyed. Yet, fighters struck with precision, finishing off the damaged Krillian ship's ability to move. One by one, the massive vessels came to a stop, floating. Helplessly in space, their crews were trapped, unable to flee and unable to fight. Meanwhile, the Use Valor and Use Guardian moved to secure the 3 disabled ships near the planet. Captain Lisa Morgan of the Valor was particularly angry about what the Krillians had done to the Zephrian cities. She had seen the orbital bombardment recordings, and the deliberate targeting of civilian areas made her blood boil. Boarding parties, prepare to search those ships, Lisa ordered. I want to know exactly what these animals did down there, and I want evidence of their crimes. But War Commander Vexfell was not finished. The proud Krillian leader had been humiliated by the human victory, and his warrior pride could not accept defeat. From his damaged flagship, he made one last desperate decision that would seal his fate. Weapons officer, Vexfell commanded. Prepare the plasma cannon. Target the largest Zephrian city. The weapons officer looked confused. Sir, we have already been defeated. Should we not be trying to escape? Vel snarled.
I'll do.
If we cannot have this world, then no one can. We will show these humans what happens when they interfere with the Krillian Empire. The massive plasma cannon on the Bone Crusher began to charge up. It was the most powerful weapon in the Krillian arsenal, capable of destroying an entire city with a single blast. Dexville planned to kill hundreds of thousands of innocent Zephrians, hoping to force the humans to negotiate. On the bridge of the UES Defiance, Dr. Amy Sullivan was monitoring communications when she detected the energy buildup. "Captain, the Krillian flagship is charging weapons. They're targeting the planet." Ben felt ice in his veins. How long until they can fire? 3 minutes, sir. All ships. Emergency speed toward the enemy flagship. Sarah, get your fighters. Back here now, Rick. I want every weapon we have ready to fire. The human fleet raced toward the Krillian command ship, but they were too far away to stop the plasma cannon from firing. The weapon would destroy a city full of innocent people, and there was nothing the humans could do to prevent it. But Sarah Walker had other ideas. Her fighter squadron was closer to the enemy flagship than the main fleet. The small ships could not destroy the massive vessel, but they might be able to disrupt its weapon systems. "All fighters follow me," Sarah ordered. "We're going straight into that ship." "Sarah, that's suicide," called Lieutenant Tom Brady. "That ship has enough firepower to destroy a planet, and we better stop it," Sarah replied simply. Human fighters dove toward the Krillian flagship like angry hornets. The massive ship's defensive weapons tried to stop them, but the small craft were too fast and too agile. They weaved between the energy blasts. Losing to fighters but continuing their attack, Sarah led her remaining 18 fighters directly into the ship's weapon ports. The fighters fired their missiles at point-blank range, targeting the plasma. Cannons focusing crystals. The explosions ripped through the weapon system, causing a chain reaction that spread through the entire forward section of the ship. The plasma cannon exploded in a brilliant flash of light, taking half the Krillian flagship with it. War Commander Vexvel and his bridge crew were killed instantly, their dreams of revenge dying with them. But the explosion had another effect. The destroyed weapon system sent a feedback pulse through the ship's power grid, causing every system to overload. The massive vessel began to break apart, its hull cracking under the stress. "All fighters get clear," Sarah ordered, pulling her damaged ship away from the dying Krillian vessel. "Captain." Ben Rodriguez watched the enemy flagship destroy itself on his view screen. The threat to the Zephrian civilians was over, but the cost had been high. 3 more human fighters had been lost in the final attack, their brave pilots dying to save innocent aliens they had never met. "Sir," Rick reported, "the remaining Krillian ships are signaling surrender." "Accept their surrender," Ben replied. "But keep weapons locked on them. I don't trust these people." The battle was over, but the work was just beginning. The human fleet had to secure the surviving Krillian vessels, rescue more prisoners, and help the Zephrians rebuild their shattered world. It would take weeks to complete all the tasks, but the humans were committed to seeing it through. Down on the planet's surface, Veltar emerged from his underground shelter for the first time in 3 days. The sky was clear for the first time since the attack began, and the burning cities were finally being brought under control. Around him, other Zephrians were coming out of hiding, looking up at the stars with wonder and gratitude. The humans saved us, Veltar said to his assistant, a young Zephrian named Kefta. "They came from across the galaxy to help people they had never met." "Why would they do such a thing?" Kefta asked. "What did they gain from helping us?" Veltar thought about the question for a long time. He had studied many alien species, but he had never encountered anything like the humans. They had risked their lives and their ships to save strangers, asking for nothing in return. "I think," Velta said slowly, "they did it because it was the right thing to do." The first human shuttle landed near the communication center an hour later. Lieutenant Colonel Mike Chen led a team of Marines and medical specialists to help with the rescue operations. The humans worked alongside the Zephrians, pulling survivors from the rubble and providing medical care to the wounded. Mike was amazed by what he saw. The Zephrians were unlike any species he had encountered. They were gentle, intelligent, and completely peaceful. The idea that anyone would attack such innocent people filled him with rage. "We're going to help you rebuild," Mike told Veltar. "Through a translation device, we're going to make sure this never happens again." The Zephrians were learning that humans were different from any species they had ever met. These strange aliens from a distant world had not only saved them from slavery and death, but they were staying to help with the recovery. It was the beginning of a friendship that would change the galaxy forever. As the human ships took up protective positions around Zephria Prime, word of the battle began to spread across known space. The Krillian Empire, which had seemed unstoppable, had been defeated by a species that most of the galaxy had never heard of. The humans had announced their presence to the universe in the most dramatic way possible. The age of human isolation was over. The galaxy was about to learn what it meant to have Earth as a neighbor. The news of the Battle of Zephria Prime spread across the galaxy like wildfire. In the great trading stations, alien merchants whispered about the impossible victory. In the halls of the Galactic Council, diplomats argued about what it meant. In the conquered worlds of the Krillian Empire, slaves looked up at the stars with new hope. The story was always the same. 3 small ships from an unknown world had destroyed an entire Krillian fleet. The mighty empire that had conquered 17 star systems had been defeated by aliens who fought not for conquest or profit, but simply because someone had asked for help. On the Galactic Council station near the center of known space, Ambassador Zexron of the Altarian Republic called an emergency session. The tall, blue-skinned diplomat had served on the council for 30 years, and he had never seen anything like the reports coming from the Zephrian system. Fellow Counselor Zexron announced to the assembled representatives, "We have received confirmed reports of the Krillian defeat. A species calling themselves humans has entered galactic politics in the most dramatic way possible." The reaction was immediate and intense. Some species were excited about the possibility of new allies against Krillian expansion. Others were worried about what kind of people could destroy such a powerful fleet. A few were angry that they had ignored the Zephrian distress call while unknown aliens had answered it. "Where did these humans come from?" asked Counselor Valenex. "Of the Centauri Federation. According to our intelligence, they are from a single star system on the edge of known space," Zexron replied. "Their world is classified as a Class 12 death world. They appear to be a warrior species that has somehow developed advanced technology." The chamber fell silent. Class 12 death worlds were rare and dangerous. Most species that evolved on such planets never developed space travel because they destroyed themselves first. The few that did make it to the stars were usually aggressive and violent. "We must make contact with these humans immediately," declared Counselor Timera of the Rigel Union. "If they are as powerful as these reports suggest, we cannot afford to have them as enemies." The humans were not waiting for the Galactic Council to decide what to do about them. Captain Ben Rodriguez had been promoted to admiral and given command of Earth's first interstellar fleet. His orders were simple: patrol known space and help any species that needed assistance. The EU's Defiance, now the flagship of the Terran Defense Fleet, had been joined by 12 other ships. Earth's shipyards were working around the clock to build. More vessels and volunteers were lining up to join the crews. The human military had found its purpose among the stars. Admiral Rodriguez stood on the bridge of his flagship, reading reports from across the galaxy. In the 3 months since the Battle of Zephria Prime, the human fleet had responded to 6 more distress calls. They had rescued miners trapped in a collapsed asteroid facility, protected a peaceful colony from space pirates, and helped evacuate a world threatened by a solar flare. Admiral called Commander Rick Hayes, who had been promoted to Rodriguez's Chief of Staff, were receiving a priority message from Earth Command. The message was from Admiral Lisa Carter, who now commanded all of Earth's space operations. "Ben, the Galactic Council wants to meet with us. They're offering full membership and asking for our help with the Krillian situation." Ben smiled. Galaxy was finally ready to take Earth seriously. But he also knew that humans had proven themselves through actions, not words. The Council had ignored the Zephrian crisis, while humans had traveled thousands of light years to help strangers. "Set course for the Council station," Ben ordered. "It's time to introduce humanity to galactic politics." Meanwhile, back on Zephria Prime, the reconstruction was going better than anyone had expected. The crystal cities were being rebuilt with human engineering assistance, and the orbital stations were back online. But the most important change was not in the buildings or the technology. It was in the Zephrians themselves. Veltar had been elected as the new leader of his people. He was working closely with Dr. Amy Sullivan to establish formal relations between their species. The Zephyrians had offered to share their advanced scientific knowledge with Earth, while humans provided military protection and tactical training. "Your people have changed us," Veltar told Amy during one of their daily meetings. "We were so focused on peace that we forgot that evil exists in the galaxy. Now we understand that sometimes you must fight to protect what is good." Amy nodded. "That's a hard lesson to learn, but you don't have to face it alone anymore. Earth will stand with Zephria Prime." The alliance between humans and Zephyrians was producing remarkable results. Human military advisors were helping to train the first Zephrian defense forces, while Zephrian scientists were working with human engineers to develop new technologies. The two species complemented each other perfectly. Lieutenant Sarah Walker, now promoted to Major, was leading the training program for Zephrian pilots. The crystalline beings were natural flyers, and they learned quickly. Within weeks, they were flying human-designed fighters with impressive skill. "You're getting better every day," Sarah told her, Zephrian students, after a training exercise. "Soon you'll be ready to defend your own world." The young Zephrian pilot Kefta, who had become one of Sarah's best students, looked up at his instructor with admiration. "We could never have imagined fighting before you came. Now we understand that protecting others is the highest calling." The impact of the human victory was being felt across the galaxy. The Krillian Empire was collapsing as world after world rebelled against their oppressors. The slaves who had been taken from conquered planets were being freed, and many of them were asking for human help in rebuilding their civilizations. Lieutenant Colonel Mike Chen, now a full colonel, was leading humanitarian missions to former Krillian worlds. His teams included human soldiers, Zephirian scientists, and volunteers from a dozen other species. They worked together to restore order and help the liberated peoples build new governments. "Sir," reported Captain Lisa Morgan, who had been assigned to Chance Command, "we just received requests for assistance from 3 more worlds. The word is spreading that Earth will help anyone who asks." Mike looked at the star charts showing all the systems requesting human aid. There were so many that even Earth's expanded fleet could not respond to them all. But they were trying, and other species were starting to help. "Get me Admiral Rodriguez," Mike ordered. "We're going to need more ships." The first official meeting between humans and the Galactic Council took place on the neutral station of Babylon 7. Admiral Rodriguez led the human delegation, which included representatives from Earth's major nations and colonies. The council chamber was filled with aliens of every description, all eager to meet the species that had defeated the Krillians. "People of Earth," announced Ambassador Zexeron, "the Galactic Council welcomes you to our community. We offer you full membership and ask for your assistance in maintaining peace among the stars." Rodriguez looked around the chamber at the assembled aliens. Some seemed genuinely pleased to meet humanity, while others appeared worried or calculating. He had expected this reaction. Fear and respect often went together. "We accept your offer of membership," Rodriguez replied. "But we want to be clear about something. Earth will help any species that asks for our assistance, whether they are council members or not. We will not ignore cries for help because of politics." The chamber erupted in discussion. Some council members were pleased by the human commitment to helping others. Others worried about the implications of a species that put moral principles above diplomatic convenience. Admiral asked Counselor Valinex, "What does Earth want in return for this assistance?" Rodriguez smiled. "We want to live in a galaxy where people can ask for help and know that someone will answer. We want to make sure that what happened to the Zephyrians never happens again."
Oh.
The galaxy was changing. The old rules of politics and power were being challenged by a species that measured success not by conquest or profit, but by the number of lives saved and the amount of suffering prevented. It was a new way of thinking that would transform how civilizations interacted with each other. As the meeting ended, Rodriguez received a message from Earth. More ships were being built, more volunteers were joining the fleet, and humanity was preparing to take its place as the galaxy's protector. The cry for help had been answered, and the universe would never be the same. What the aliens had learned was that for humans, helping others was not unusual. It was just what they did.